Cast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar this week. My name is Tanya, and I'm the marketing manager over here at Struxoft Solutions. Just for those of you who are new with us today, our STAR solution, MWF or Metalwood Framer, simplifies complex Revit framing with its powerful range of tools for modeling, intertrade class detection, custom construction documentation, and optional output to CNC machines. Today, however, our technician Aparna will cover how to troubleshoot opening framing issues, including how to deal with pocket doors and nested families. Just before we get going, I'd like to remind everyone that you can ask questions throughout the webinar in the Questions tab of the GoToWebinar dashboard. We'll make sure to answer them at the end of the webinar, or if we don't have enough time, we'll get back to you by email within 24 hours. All right, that's it for me. I'm going to hand off to Aparna now.
Hi, everyone. My name is Aparna. I'm a Senior Implementation Specialist here at Struxoft, and today we're going to learn how to troubleshoot opening framing issues. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to contact Tanya or myself. Our email addresses are on the screen. I'm sorry, I may have made a mistake with that right there. So our email addresses are on the screen. Please feel free to contact us. So today, we're going to cover a few topics. We're going to be covering how to access the Help Center and how to access the forum. We are going to talk about opening framing best practices and how to access them on your own. And we will talk about troubleshooting opening framing using markers that are available within MWF. We're also going to be troubleshooting pocket doors, the do's and don'ts, and then troubleshooting nested families and some tips that we recommend with nested families. So let's start with the Help Center today. So I'm just going to bring up the Help Center. So when you log into your Zendesk, Struxoft also gives you access to the Help Center. So you can just type your question here and it will take you to whatever you're looking for. So say I was looking for wall reports, it will give you a few suggestions and it will take you to wall reports. Or if I was going to look for opening, it will give you everything that states opening as a title. So if you would click on that, it will take you to the guide or tutorial on how to work with openings. And it has a lot of helpful information. Like it's basically a really great knowledge base. We have the general information tab here, which also houses our best practices. And along with that, we have our community tab here and FAQs if you have any, the frequently asked questions that we get all the time. And then if you need any help from the community, this could be anybody who's currently using MWF, any of our clients, or it could be any of the staff, and we can basically discuss it in a forum format. So I'm just going to go back here, and I'm going to take you back into the location where we can find the best practices, which is within the Help Center and General tab. So I'm going to click on how to properly set up your Revit project for MWF. So this document has a lot of helpful information about model cleanup, delivered content, how to deal with markers, creating 3D views, preparing your wall templates. And now we have gotten to the section about the opening types. So what do we need to do as best practices for our opening? We're trying to frame them. So one of the big things we recommend is you always have to have your width, your height, and your rough dimensions populated accurately, because those are the 4 parameters that MWF uses to frame your walls properly and frame your openings properly. We also recommend placing center lines of families in the middle of the family, because it's also more of placing it in the middle of the rough opening so that MWF places the framing accordingly. There is actually an example of that a little lower. I will show you that when we get there. And then in the front view, if you take a look at the window insertion point, it should be at the bottom, which is the sill. And we should set that as an origin in order for it to be considered the insertion point. And then we do not support generic model openings at all. MWF isn't able to read the data from those that category, basically. So it needs to be a window, a door, or an opening category for MWF to consider it an opening and to be able to frame it with the opening markers, and or to even consider it as an opening and to frame it as an opening. We also do not support instance parameters for like height and width of doors. So sometimes when you're trying to create a window family using a family template that comes in from Revit, sometimes the rough dimensions are based as or are shown as instance parameters. We cannot have them as instance parameters. We need them to be type parameters in order for MWF to grab that data. And then the other thing about windows and doors within MWF, like I mentioned here, we need to have the center line as a reference plane, and that has to be set as an origin. Reason being, we use that center line, or well, we basically take dimension and we will find the center line and place the framing around that. So if you look here, the framing is offset because technically the center line of the opening is here, so it's framing it according to that. So what we recommend, add the center reference plane and create it as or check mark the origin button, and that will allow your door to frame correctly. All right, so this is some of the best practices for doors and windows. And yeah, let's move on to the next topic, which is troubleshooting opening framing using markers. So let's go take a look at this building. So we're using a residential building. I have framed one half of it with wood, and the other half of it is LGS. So we're going to go take a look at this window over here. So let's take a look at the window elevation. Let's go to elevation view, and yeah, let's see what is happening here. So what I've done is I've created the edges of the structural framing category to be red, and I've created the edges of structural column category to be cyan or blue. And so that way we can see where the structure ends clearly. So over here, when I'm taking a look at this family, it seems like there's a gap between the header and where it's actually supposed to frame. So let's take a look at let's dimension that tolerance right now. Okay, so that's 1/2 inch. That's 1/2 inch. And that is 1/2 inch. And that's 1/2 inch. That seems to be a very popular number today. All right, so let's use these values and try to maybe add a marker and see if this issue is resolved. So I'm going to click on the opening, and I'm going to go to MWF Pro Suite. I'll click on markers, and I'll apply opening type. And I'm going to just apply one of our default markers and see what happens. And if you don't see all the markers that I'm seeing here, it's probably, I'm just going to apply the marker first. And then it's probably because you need to do a settings load data. When you load data, we have multiple options. We have, or well, 2 options actually. We have LGS default, and we So if you're working on a wood project, you would import wood. If you're working on LGS, you could import LGS. And it will import all the markers, the join markers, and all the symbols required into the project and prep your Revit project with everything that NW might need. So now we have assigned I'm just going to double check it to make sure. All right, so we have assigned the void framing default marker to this. What I'm going to do is now I'm going to regenerate. You will notice when I regenerate that all the dimensions will disappear. The reason for this is whenever MWF creates a panel or regenerates a panel, it deletes what is existing as a panel, and it recreates the panel as a brand new panel. So even the Revit IDs for all of these elements, those of you who are familiar with that, are different. They are not exactly the same, which is also why our dimensions disappeared. So when I take a look again and says, okay, so the dimension, the default marker also doesn't seem to be framing this properly. So what I'm going to do is, again, just do a quick dimension and see if we still have that same tolerance. Yep, we have that same tolerance issue. So I'm going to just check the side here for a quick second. Half an inch. Yep, we have that same tolerance issue. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to click on the opening. I'm going to go here, go to Marker Manager, actually, and then go to Opening, and we're going to go to Single. And this is where all of our markers are located. And what we will do now is we'll select this default, and we will duplicate it, and we'll call it default fixed tolerance, or fixed window, I guess. So I already have created one, so it's probably not going to let me create another one. So I'll call it fixed window 1. And we're going to double click on that. And we're going to just, we're going to see if we can increase this a little more. No? Okay. So now we have these tolerances over here. So we currently, I'm actually going to close out of here so I can show you the dimensions for a quick second. Okay. So whenever we want to go into the opening, which is kind of what we want to do, I'm going to hide this opening here. We want the framing to go towards the center of the opening. We are going to use negative dimensions. If we want the framing to go outside the opening or away from the center of the opening, we will be using positive dimensions. All right. So with that note in mind, I'm going to undo the hide of the window. We're going to click on it. We're going to go here. We're going to go to markers, and we will apply opening type. So there's multiple ways to edit the marker itself. I do not recommend this way, but this is also another way you could do it. So we could apply fixed window 1, which we just created, and we can just take a look at this. And now we need to add all the tolerances in here. So like I said, if you wanted to go into the opening or towards the center of the opening, it will be negative. And if you want it to be outside the opening, it will be positive. So we are going to go negative 0.5 inches. And we'll click outside. We'll go here, copy, and we'll paste, and we'll paste, and we'll paste. Because it is happening on all 4 sides, and all 4 sides need to move towards the center. So we have those options. Over here, we also have the option to update within the marker. We have the option to change the families that we're using for our header, jack, king, and sill. But these are grayed out right now. And the reason these are grayed out right now is because within the parameters tab here, they are unchecked. So if they are unchecked, they will use whatever we have set within the panel properties for opening framing. So it will use those members to frame the opening instead of using whatever is specified in the marker. But if we did have all of these 4 checked, then it will use whatever we have specified within this section. All right, so I'm just gonna hit OK. Those look good. I'll hit OK. All right, and just to confirm, we'll go here and double check if it actually modified within this section. Yep, it seems to have fixed itself. All right, so we're, sorry, it does seem to have populated here as well, so we're good. So we're gonna close out. Another thing I would like to show you is that if you click on the window and you no longer want to have a marker applied to it, you can click on apply and opening type and you can make this go up to none. And you can just hit OK. And that will basically, and then when you regenerate the panel, it will make it go back to 0. So since I've already created another marker for this opening, I will go attach or apply that marker, check. And I'm going to quickly go here and hit the regenerate button. And let's see what happens to the framing. All right, it seems pretty nice. So if I hide this opening, EH, to hide the opening, it doesn't seem like there's a wall that's leaking out anywhere. It seems to have framed properly, so I will undo the hiding of the opening. That looks good. And that looks good. Yeah. So this worked, and we fixed the opening framing using a marker. Now let's go take a look at our next topic, which is we are going to take a look at our pocket doors and how to work with pocket doors. So with pocket doors, we need to always ensure, we're going to take a look at the wood side now. So we're going to go and take a look at the elevation. You do have the option to look at the section view, especially if you have a really creative or really curvy frame, I guess. So if you go to the go to the section, you can actually see that the header is not really framing properly. And you can also see, like, well, at the sill, we've actually left our bottom tracks for rigidity, and we have not split them. So yeah, so over here, we can take a look and see that it doesn't seem to be framing properly. It doesn't seem to be the right sizes either. I'm just going to quickly. Okay, so I'm going to close out of here and I'm going to go into my elevation view, which is this guy. So it doesn't seem to be framing properly. This makes sense because this little panel will actually go into this little gap here. So we don't want the framing to extend through. But over here on the top, that doesn't look right. So let's go take a look at the family, okay? So we're going to edit the family. We're going to go take a look at our exterior view. I'm going to make this fine, maybe make it 1 to 10. And I'm also going to go visibility graphics, and I'm going to turn all of them on. Oops, all on. Okay. And now I can see everything I need to see. So it seems like we have a rough height dimension here. But let's go take a look at what this rough height dimension actually is, because sometimes we have formulas applied to them, so we can't just change the dimension manually because it will affect the other items that they're attached to. So over here, it says it's height plus 115, all right? But if you take a look at this view, and I'll hit VV this time so that I can hide everything. Not everything, just this. There you go. All right, so let's see if that works. So now we can take a look at just our opening, okay? So our opening seems to be our height plus 25 millimeters, but our rough height was actually set to our height plus 115, right? So that seems to have been a typo. So let's go maybe check and maybe let's go fix the formula itself, because if the height changes, we do want it to be relative. So let's make the height, make it height plus 25, because that's what we can see over here. Oops, not 255, but 25. And we'll hit OK. So now it gets brought back down to here. And now let's go load this family back into the project and take a look. All right, existing version and its parameters. All right, and then I'm going to click on this panel and I'm going to quickly regenerate. All right, so it looks like it's framing properly now. And I'm going to hide this door just perfect. So you see it's framing right above the opening properly and looks pretty nice. You could also fix this with a marker by just adding the top tolerance in there. That would be a really quick fix if you don't want to edit the family, but it is always preferred that your families are set up properly so that you can use all the parameters already provided to their maximum capabilities. And if I click on here and just to see why it was framing according to the rough dimensions, I'll click on the stud that belongs to the panel, click on properties, and I can just quickly take a look at my opening framing data within the miscellaneous tab and hit edit beside the opening framing. I'm already using the opening framing from the openings tab, but I wanted to check my general options. So over here, it says that my panel is using rough dimensions if available. If this is checked on, you have to have your rough dimensions populated, and if they're set to 0, you're going to have it's going to try to just use the width and the height. But if that's not what you want, and you usually have your opening cut to be larger than the width and the height of your door because of the frame offset, you should use rough dimensions. It will make it easier within the family. And that way we'll also know how to frame it properly. Just gonna quickly hit OK. And that seems to work great. Now let's check out our next topic. Also, if you have any questions, just type them up in the questions chat. I'm going to discuss we're going to discuss nested families now. So with nested families, like MWF doesn't really prefer nested families, but sometimes when we do get doors and windows from the architect, their frame is a nested family of its, the frame is nested into the main door family. So what we're going to do is go and take a look at this door and check it out. So first, let's go in here and go to view. I'm going to close this one out, close that one out, and say no. So we're going to go to the nested door elevation, and we're going to just take a look here. Seems like the header is not framing properly, and neither are the studs on either side of the opening. So I'm going to just hide the door so you can see. So the purple line here is the wall. If you see the highlight, so the purple line there is the opening, and you see it seems like the header is framing fine, but it's these edges that are not framing fine. All right, so now let's do this. Let's go back and we can click on this door and maybe take a look at how this family is built. So now that I'm taking a look at this family, it seems like, yep, this is a family of its own instead of it being a quick little sweep. So let's go take a look inside this family. So you see, instead of creating an actual opening cut within the door, we have like voids, and MWF doesn't like voids very much. So it kind of sometimes does not know what to do with them. Like we have a void, we have a void here because I guess they wanted to create a frame structure like this so the header could sit in something. And then we have a void here. So let's do one very quick thing. We will go to the front view. We will go to create, we're going to make this a sweep so that we don't have to use voids within this family. So we're going to go sweep, and we're going to set the center front back as our plane, which is that. And we're going to be drawing our line here. We're going to draw our line here. We're going to draw our line here. And we're going to hit modify sweep. And oh no, did this not work again? Does everybody, sorry, I'm just going to quickly do this sketch path again. Set front back as a reference and select this line, this line, this line, oops, this line, and that's my path there. More than one loop is not allowed. Continue. We only have one loop. Oh, sorry. There we go. And I'm just going to quickly check the front view to see if everything is aligned. No, that does not seem right. Let's do align to this edge, this, and to this edge, this. And now let's quickly check it out in 3D again. That looks good. It looks unaligned. And everything looks aligned. And I'll hit the check mark. And I'm going to edit profile. And I'm going to go to the plan view because we already have a little template over here drawn in the plan view. So let's just go to pick lines, and we'll click on the little items drawn here. And we're going to trim these to make a little sketch. And the best part is you just have to do this once and it will sweep along the path. So we don't have to draw it on that side. And say check. And now let's set it, and let's go take a look at our 3D view. Oopsie. 3D view, and see what is happening here. So we have a few things happening. So it kind of looks like we haven't done anything, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight this, and we're going to filter out the voids. So let's select the voids and see what is highlighted. So those two items, we're going to hit delete because we don't want to work with voids. So if you see, if I click down here, they literally built, they just drew the outline of the frame and extruded it to the height extent that they wanted, and they basically created the voids to create the little openings in the middle. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete that, and we're going to just leave this wonderful little sweep here. And there are, if I highlight over here and filter, there are no voids in here, which is amazing. All right, so now we're going to load this into the project, but not the project, sorry. We're going to load this into our door family, which is being imported into our model. It says, I don't want to save it right now. Already existing. Oh, whoopsie. See, the door is, the frame is actually gone inside the wall. It's probably because we forgot to set up a parameter. So what I'm going to do is, again, quickly, I'm going to go down here to the frame, right click, edit the frame within the families portion of this dialog box. And then what we're going to do is edit the sweep, select the profile, edit the profile, go to the plan view, and what we're going to do is we're going to align elements to the reference planes. Okay, and now after we've aligned, we're going to, provide dimensions. So we're going to do this from here to here, from here to, oops, from here to here, and then from here to here. All right, and once we provide these dimensions, we're also going to lock them because we want them to be set. All right, and now we will load this in, load it in, and load it into the door family. overwrite existing version and its parametric values. So now you see the frame here and you see the frame here, which is what we wanted, right? Like how it was there. So now we're trying to figure out how is, so if I click on the wall, you see how it, when I hover over, you see how it seems to be cut somehow, but there is no opening cut. Like if I highlight it this way and I filter, there's no opening cut provided. So how did they cut this? Probably by the use of voids, right? So what we're going to try to do is we're going to hit the uncut geometry. We're going to try to select everything in this vicinity. So now you see there's like an orange line here, which basically means we uncut the void out of the wall. So now if I hover over the wall, you see the outline is flat at the bottom, flat at the top. So that means it's uncut now, which is exactly what we want. And we'll take this and we'll say, nope, we don't want to use you. We want to now try to create an actual opening. So we recommend using the opening cut instead of void forms, so NWF reads it properly or reads it better. So I prefer to go to the exterior view, and I always like to do it wireframe so I can see where the openings need to land. So I'm going to go to opening and I'm going to start creating an opening. If you can attach your lines to the reference planes while drawing them, great. I always like to make sure I lock everything to the reference plane. So I'm going to do AL as align and align that down here. Over here, we want it to go right above this line. So we're gonna click this line and click that and lock it. And that's our alignment there. Same thing here, from here to here, we wanna align that and lock it. Same thing here, align that to that and lock it. Another thing, just as a safety precaution, I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dimension from here to specify my rough width. And so right now, this is what I have as a dimension. So I'm gonna go and try to assign rough width to this. So I can't actually assign a rough width to this right now because it's telling me that rough width is equal to 0 feet because we have set it to equal to 0 feet, or in the formula, it's set to be equal to 0 feet. So now let's go take a look at that. We actually want to provide a rough height and a rough width value so that we can frame these doors properly. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the properties here and go take a look at our rough width and rough height. So they are grayed out because they have formulas assigned to them, which is 0 feet. So you have two options in this location. If you know what the offset is supposed to be in terms of the width, go ahead and add a formula in there. If you know what the height is supposed to be in, the rough height is supposed to be in relation to the typical height, then go ahead and put that information in. So we can actually do that, right? So when I'm going to just set this as 0 for now and say okay. And what we could do is we know that this is the width by taking a look at our reference plane. We know the width is from this reference plane to this reference plane. So if we do a quick little dimension here from this guy to this guy, it says 1/2 inch. So what we could actually do when we go to the exterior here, it makes sense, right? The width is 3 feet and we have an extra inch here, which is for the 2 tolerances on the side for the frame. So what we could do is we could use the width parameter as a part of the formula so that wherever the width is placed, it will add the 1/2 inch on either side. So what we could do is we could copy the width parameter and place it here. And then we could say that, width plus 1 inch, or you could do 2 times 1/2 inch, that's okay too. It's up to you. Or if you have a parameter that specifies what the dimension is, you can assign it to that parameter as well and do 2 times that parameter. And for the rough height, I'm presuming it's the same because it was a sweep. So it should be exactly the same, except We are only doing it at the top, and we don't really have any offset at the bottom. We don't have a frame at the bottom. So what we're going to do is we are going to use the height parameter, and I always prefer to copy it from here because Revit doesn't deal with it really nicely. If the H is small case, it has to be exactly. It is very case sensitive. If you have a underscore or a decimal or a space, it needs to know exactly where that is. So I prefer to just copy the parameter name and paste it. And then here I'm going to add 1/2 inch to this. All right, so it tells me it's 8.5 and this is 3'1". So let's go and say okay. So what we're going to do is this 3'1", now I'm going to assign it to be rough width because that is true. But another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that this is associated to the center line. So my rough width is always centered to the center line. All right, so we have that set up. Then we are going to add the rough height dimension. So DI, we're going to go from the reference level to the top here. So it says 8 feet, 1/2 inch. So what we're going to go do here is go take a look. It says 8 feet, 1/2 inch because of our formula. And it actually mentions the formula, which is what I love about this little dropdown. It says height plus 1/2 inch is why you're getting that number. So we'll go click on that. And now it's associated. And we can load that. Now we can load this into the model, load into the project, residential. And you see we created the opening cut within the family that is being loaded into Revit. Override existing version and its parameters. And we're going to just quickly regenerate this panel. Now let's take a look at the framing. That looks good because the purple lines are the edge of the wall. So that looks nice. This looks good. It doesn't seem to be seeping into the opening. I'm going to hide the window here, or sorry, the door here, EH. And it seems like the purple line and the blue line seems to be on top of each other, which is perfect. How about here? The purple line, there you go. I noticed that maybe you guys can't see the purple line now. So if I do a thick line, the purple line is solid here, so you could see it. It looks pretty good. So I'm gonna go back to thin lines so that we can take a look at the corners. That looks good. So I'm gonna bring back the door. No, I'm going to unhide the door here this way, and I'll say ZA. Another tidbit of information I wanted to give you was, since we modified the family, every wall that has that family attached to it needs to be regenerated. So if you have created panels for every wall in your model already, and this family is maybe used like, let's check how often it's used in my project. So if I go here and I say select all instances in view, it's used in multiple locations. So that means I have to select all these panels and try to, and I have to regenerate them. So you have to be mindful of that if you are ever modifying the family. And same thing with the pocket door. If the pocket door is used in multiple locations, like here, it seems to be used 4 times, but in the whole project, it's used 8 times. So we need to be mindful of going and regenerating all those panels so that we can get we can get the framing to look the way we need it to look. And the same thing goes with markers. So like currently, I only applied the marker to this guy here, but this window exists on so many other walls, right? So if I go select all instances in entire project, you see it's used like almost everywhere. So what we're going to quickly do in order for us to apply the same marker to all of them, presuming that they all have that same issue, we can just go to MWF Pro Suite, go to markers, apply opening type. Ours was fixed window, and yeah, we can basically hit the check mark. And now all of these have that marker assigned to them. And all you will have to do is go to the, so over here you see there's a discrepancy. I can click on this and I can regenerate. And it automatically fix itself because we applied that marker. And yeah, that's all. You just have to go to the panels and regenerate themselves or regenerate them. And that's it. Tanya, you can take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Aparna. So it looks like we have a couple minutes to answer a few questions. If you'd like to pose a question, please go ahead now and type it into the questions dashboard. You can find that on the control panel. Just while we wait for any questions to come through, I'd like to remind everyone that the recording of the webinar will be sent through tomorrow, or actually rather later today. As always, please feel free to share this recording with any colleagues. And if you'd like to set up a one-on-one demonstration or have any questions after the session, we highly encourage you to reach out to our team. Our contact details will be provided along with the recording. All right, Aparna, it looks like we do actually have a question. So this is from Christopher. His question is, do the openings use the cut parameters or reference planes?
So for the openings, they use the opening cut if you don't have the dimensions for rough openings provided. It will use your opening cut, and it will also use your width and height parameter to frame it. So it will, if you have an opening cut, it will use that first, then it will use your width and height parameters if those are provided, which is why your center line in your openings is very important. So it knows where to place those dimensions. Otherwise, it will just place it in the center of the family if it can't find cut or cut or center line. So first, it will use the cut. Second, it will use the width and height parameters. And if you have selected rough opening dimensions in your panel properties for it to use rough opening dimensions as shown earlier, then it will use the rough opening dimensions. And it's always preferred, as I used to work in the structural discipline, but it's always preferred to use the rough opening dimension so that we can actually place the framing around the door the way we want it, the framing around the window the way it's supposed to go. So it just gives you a lot more flexibility, and you don't have to mess with the architectural framing or architectural frame window type and so on and so forth. Does that answer your question?
Yep, it did. You just responded. I'm just gonna wait a couple more seconds to see if any other questions have come through. All right, as I mentioned earlier, if you do have any questions after the session is closed, please feel free to email myself or Aparna. Our contact details are available on the screen, as well as they'll be available with the recording. Once again, I just want to say thank you to Aparna and thank you to everyone who registered for the webinar. All right, we'll now be ending the webinar. Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye.